Welcome, everybody, to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
It's my goal to feed 1 billion people before I die.
We want to bring awareness around the issue of hunger and food insecurity.
7 to 8 million people served so far. With the sole goal of eradicating world hunger by connecting sources of food to recipients in need. Fiorenza's Food for Friends.
Hi, Derek Fiorenza here with the F4 Hunger Awareness Show, and I have a really special guest with us, Nicole Snyder from McKenna Snyder Law Firm. How are you today, Nicole?
I'm great, thanks, Derek. How are you?
I am blessed. And Nicole, most people don't know this. They're listening probably maybe for the first time, but our friendship goes back a number of years because you used to be on our advisory board.
Yes. Yeah, it was quite an honor to work for help to be on the board of such a great organization that does so much for the community.
Thanks, Nicole. How did we meet again? Do you even remember how we got connected?
I think that we were connected through a mutual contact, Mary Wagner
Oh,
at
that's right. Yep.
Valley Creek Financial Services introduced us, as I think she was a former board member as well.
Yes, Mary and I had done some work together when she used to be at LPL because we're in the financial services industry, and then we networked. That's amazing how that connection came to be. And then we share our Catholic faith, so I know that
Yeah.
your kids went through St. E's. I used to play guitar. I still do occasionally, but St. E's, St. Elizabeth's in Chester
Okay.
Springs at their
Yes.
guitar mass. Beautiful church.
Yeah, it's a wonderful church, a wonderful community. I can't say enough good things about the education my kids have gotten at St. Elizabeth and at Bishop Shanahan. Two of my kids have gone there as well.
Great school. My alma mater, Shanahan.
Hmm.
And didn't recently St. Elizabeth's was the last year or 2 years ago, didn't the priest from Shanahan go over to St. E's?
Yes. Yeah, Father Donia is
Father
at
Donny.
St. A's now.
He gives some amazing homilies. So I'll just share this with the those that are listening. We were at Mass, and Father Donny was given a homily. And at the time, he was sharing a story of when he was serving food at a shelter with some sisters, some nuns. And I guess, if you've ever worked in a soup kitchen, you're cleaning the pots and the pans, and some of that stuff gets kind of grimy and gross. You're caked off whatever it is, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes. The pans get very dirty and sticky because you're cooking for such large quantities. Like some parts of the pan burn to the bottom and some parts don't. And then you also have people that are eating whatever they eat on their plate, and then what's not left on the plate gets scraped in the trash, and you're cleaning these plates. So obviously you have to have like a good stomach and you have to go through it. You like to have gloves and a sponge and make sure, a good clean process. Well, the dish drain was getting clogged up. And this is very common if anybody's done any work at a soup kitchen. The dish drain was getting clogged up. So father says, does anybody have any gloves that I can use? And the sister said to him something along the lines of, and I'm not quoting him verbatim because I don't want to misrepresent what he said, but what makes you think that you're too good to get your hands dirty?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when I heard that, I was already on a mission to help feed people, but I was just kind of put things in perspective, what really matters in life. And if you take that comment and you step back from it, essentially what that is saying, in my interpretation, is that you're not better than anybody else, and you could be in that same position needing help that somebody else is in. It's only by the grace of God. You've worked hard, maybe, but God allows you to have the ability to breathe, to work, to sleep, to function, to eat, to have clients, or whatever your job might be. Everything is because of God, and
Yeah.
it's all for God. So at the end of the day, it's just like keeping that perspective, we can now approach people with more compassion and gentleness and love and not judging them. Well, you're in this position because of you deserved it or anything like that. That story just really it talked to that, humble spirit that we're all called to, I believe. So I just thought I'd
Yeah,
share that with
that's
you.
beautiful. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it does. It puts things in perspective. We all need to roll our sleeves up and get our hands dirty once in a while, whether we want to or not, right? And
Yes.
yeah, we're very blessed to have things that help us along the way, but
Yeah.
you know.
So Nicole, I want to learn about your backstory, how you became an attorney. You're one of the most impressive people I know. You raised three
Oh,
children, you run a law practice. How did you enter the law field, and what kind of law do you practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for the compliment. I'm very impressed by you again and F4 and all the great things that you do too. So how I became an attorney, I don't, that's a question that's often I get asked that now. I'm like, after like almost 25 years practicing, I have to think back and say, why did I do this in the first place? Right. But I would say I always had, I think the fundamental things that were with me even as a child, like I had a um, very strong interest in serving others in a strong sense of justice, right? So to
Mm.
speak. And I liked to write and I liked to read and I didn't like to do math. I have to say that too. Right? So, no, as a kid, I was very interested more in the arts. So I went to Villanova University after I graduated. I grew up in the Norristown area. My mom was a school nurse, so this is kind of getting into the type of law I practice now. So my mom was a school nurse for years. I went to Villanova University undergrad. I became an English major at Villanova University, and I took some pre-law classes. I enjoyed them. I liked them. I did a minor in philosophy, a minor in political science, and then I was trying to figure out what to do. And it was maybe going to be teaching, maybe going to be law. And I just kind of decided, listen, Villanova has a law school. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So I just embarked right on that
Mm.
journey of going to law school. And then once I'm in law school, the next question is, what are we going to do from
Yeah.
here? And because there's, for anybody who might be considering, going into the field of law, I'm always happy, by the way, to talk to anybody who's an aspiring lawyer. There's a lot of different options. You can go into transactional work, contract work, litigation. You can represent any number of business entities or individuals. And my mom, having been a school nurse, I used to get a sense from her that schools actually had legal issues, right? They have students in them, they have litigation issues, they have students with disabilities issues, they have health law issues, they have all sorts of different things that you can be involved in. So when I was at Villanova, I took a couple of education law courses back then, and then I clerked for a year for Commonwealth Court Judge Ledbetter, and that's an appellate court where a lot of appeals from decisions of administrative agencies, such as the Pennsylvania Department of Education, go. And there are some original jurisdiction cases there. Long story short, got a little bit more exposure to education law there. And then my current partner, Kevin, he was looking for an associate to help him with his charter school and cyber charter school practice, which was just starting at that point. So I've been with Kevin for over 20 years since that time. And so we represent schools, mainly charter schools, cyber charter schools, and private schools in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, from the eastern part of the state through the western part of the state, north and south. And it's great work. I do enjoy the ability to work, to feel like I'm helping
Yeah.
a larger goal, like a community of students. Like I feel like I am an advocate for students, and especially students with disabilities, because that's the main focus of my particular part of our education law practice. Even though I'm representing the schools and not necessarily the parents, there's always a way to have courageous conversations and meaningful conversations about what we can do to make sure that the school is complying with its legal requirements and doing what's right for kids. So that's what we do. And yeah, I'm excited by, what the future holds, but very proud of what we've accomplished in the area as well.
Nicole, a couple questions. How did that change, if at all, with COVID? Are you doing less driving to schools? That's my first question.
Yes. So actually there was like any business, right? There was a big fear, COVID, where it's going to really negatively impact our work. But
Right.
I only found that the work has become a lot more issues, a lot more opportunities for figuring out how we're going to differentiate instruction in a virtual setting. But yes, it has changed. I can handle a lot more now in a certain sense, because a lot of the time that was spent traveling to and from different schools, you're doing a lot of your meetings via this platform, right? Via online platforms, and you can kind of fit more into a day that way. Now, I will say there are pros and cons to that too. Sometimes it is nice to get in a room with people face to face, because there are some things that you can't necessarily easily navigate online as easily as if you kind of could take somebody outside and have a side conversation with them. In real life, sometimes there's a lot to be said for that, but it works. But it is a good platform, and I feel like it's, there were a lot of changes, a lot of impacts of COVID-19 on students. They're just getting back, full time into school for a couple years now, since some of them didn't even have like maybe a real kindergarten experience, or had different options for learning that may or may not have impacted where they are now. Some positively, some negative. A lot of mental health issues as well that went into that. A lot of kids suffered a lot of trauma during that time, so we're very sensitive to that and help schools with suggestions for how they can address some of those issues in a legally defensible and appropriate way for kids.
So, have you seen that an uptick in mental health issues because of COVID, not being able to have the acclimation, I guess, because kids weren't. First off, wearing the mask is pretty traumatic, right? I hated
Yeah.
wearing it, but even as a kid, like that's got to be weird. And then secondly, they weren't able to kind of socialize with their peers. Have you seen more mental health issues because of that?
I think there were a lot of it. Like, it depends. Everything's kind of like individualized. So I saw a lot of issues. I wouldn't say they were the same across the board. I think some kids were, well, first, and obviously, a lot of people had a lot of family tragedies during
Yeah.
that time period. So
Yes.
just helping kids to manage that. They may have lost a grandparent, uncle, sibling. So that had its own toll, and the school needed to be sensitive to that. In addition to that, some of them had their own serious health conditions,
Yep.
right? And worries about returning to a school setting post
Yep.
COVID. And then some of them hadn't been in a school setting for a period of time. So there was some school avoidance, school anxiety, and
Yep.
getting back into a brick and mortar setting for some of them. And some of them realized the opposite of this. I do a lot of cyber charter school work, and cyber charter schools, I think, even expanded and developed further in some senses, because some kids realize that really is a great alternative and educational option for them in their lives and what they want to do, because it eliminated maybe some barriers that they otherwise felt in a setting where they maybe either had some difficulties, generalizing social skills with peers in a brick and mortar setting, and then they were able to do that in maybe a safer space. It's all individual, every kid's different, but those were some of the things that I've seen. And then just getting kids back up to speed.
Hmm.
Some parents who were working at home with their kids during that time, they were working themselves, right? Full time, a lot of them. So, I was one of them, right? Divided attention, had 3 kids, had a full-time job, trying to do it all in the home. So it's just, maybe didn't spend as much time as we could have in some areas with them, and then had to pick up speed, spent more time with them in other areas. So there were some positives and some negatives, but yeah, definitely was impactful to our community as a whole.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
How does the work you do make you feel on a personal level? Do you get a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction? Some people will go to work and it's just another day, but do you feel passionate about the work you're doing?
I do. I feel really passionate about the work that we do on behalf of our clients. I want to do my best for them, and it's not always easy for them, and I know what they go through, and when they're trying to balance the needs of each individual student with the needs of the entire school community, their staff, all of their students, and others. And I feel it can be hard sometimes. I will say that, like, it can be hard when you're working through an issue and it's not necessarily resolving in a way that your client wanted. Sometimes it's just the reality of things, but there's always some good that comes out of it, right? Like something we can learn, something that we can take, a courageous conversation we can all have
Mhm.
together in the future with how we're going to handle this a little bit differently. And they can all potentially be opportunities for growth. I feel the most fulfilled when I have the opportunity to work with my clients on a proactive, preventative basis. So we're
Mm.
giving them tools, resources, making them feel like they are going to be uh, empowered to make the right decisions for kids and for their staff and for their schools as a whole, before they get into a litigation standpoint. So they feel like they've got the tools they need in order to be legally compliant. So whenever we can do professional developments, or professional development session, or talk through an issue with them when they're not sure about the right approach to go, or help them draft a contract that's going to protect some of their interests. All of that's, it is fulfilling. It's, the days can be long, but if you kind of keep the bigger picture and think to yourself, there's a reason I'm here. There's a reason that this case came in front of me. There's a reason why my day is going the way it is. you just keep perspective and keep moving forward and keep doing your best. And I think that, you can have a sense of fulfillment, even on the bad days.
Yeah, it's a good perspective to remind ourselves because those
Mhm.
bad days can be overwhelming, mentally,
Yeah.
emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me about the process. You mentioned that your favorite part is being proactive. So what's that process look like? When you say being proactive with the students and the family, what does that process look like?
Well, I think that one of the things that school, first of all, at a baseline for a school, I'd probably be saying anticipate the needs of your school, right?
Got
Of
it.
your population. And
Makes
so
sense.
that's starting at the board, kind of like board oversight, policy development.
So schools can hire you for that, even if there's not an
Yes,
issue, to
yeah,
proactively get ahead of it.
yeah, definitely. Just making sure that your policy, the overall school board policies are compliant.
Are
Making
a
sure.
lot of schools not, Nicole?
I find that schools want to do the right thing, right? Like I think that sometimes things change so rapidly that
Yeah.
it can be hard to keep up unless you have constant updates coming to you from legal and you have somebody designated within your school community that's staying on top of it.
Yep.
It can be challenging, I'll put it that way, but I do find the schools that I represent generally, like, they are totally on the right space, and so they come to us if they've been working with us for a long time. They just come to us and say, hey, can you just review it? Have there been any updates over the last year? Take a quick look at what you already reviewed, and then it's a quicker process for them to move forward. I think anybody who serves on a school board, from what I've witnessed, and I know I can't speak for
Yeah.
everybody, but they're well intentioned. Anybody who serves on a board, Derek, you know this, and
Yeah.
with your own organization, like that's a time commitment and a commitment of resources, and
Hmm.
you have good intentions. You're not doing that for a selfish purpose. You're doing that to help others. So I feel like that is always the case. Um, so they're good that way, and a lot of the educators and administrators who dedicated their lives to serving kids, they're in that for that reason, not because it's necessarily the most glamorous job in the world, but it is one that makes them feel fulfilled. So yeah, I think so. What I think that our firm can do, or our firm brings to the table, is a number of years of experience working directly with schools, particularly charter schools, cyber charter schools, and private schools in Pennsylvania. So we know what you need. We kind of know what policies, procedures, processes, and issues can get you in good shape, and some that can create issues for you. And we also have a lot of contacts, relationships, and we know a lot of vendors that work with schools, such as insurance brokers, agents, carriers that you need. So we're always happy to give you options, of people to look at if you want to explore things in that area. Um, and yeah, we have a great team here of attorneys that have specialties in various areas from A to Z for schools. So I feel like it's a good place where you can come, and if I don't know the answer, I can assure you I will find you somebody who can
Yeah.
help you find the answer.
Do you only represent charter and cyber charter schools, or do you represent all schools?
We represent primarily charter and cyber charter schools. We do a good number of private schools now as well too.
Oh,
That's a growing part of our practice that we're very happy with. Some approved private schools, and um, schools that cater to specifically to students with disabilities or students who have had some alternative education needs. So we do a lot of that work. We do from time to time, especially we serve as insurance defense counsel. So sometimes an insurer will bring us in on a special issue for a school district. But I will say, if you're keeping um, in line with what goes on,
yep.
in the politics of cyber charters and brick and mortar districts, and sometimes there are some conflicts that develop because
Got
there
it.
are some disputes between the two. So we take very seriously not ever having a conflict or putting us in that position. So we would always be happy and willing to represent districts. We've done a little bit of it, but only when it doesn't present like a potential for a conflict between our existing clients.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm someone that doesn't have a whole lot of knowledge or experience in this area, but it sounds like you've created a niche because there's a glaring need in this charter and cyber charter school network and private schools now too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think so. My partner, Kevin McKenna, who he definitely started this practice out. I think he he began working with charters and cyber charters, I would say in the late 90s, right when the first charter school law bill in the state passed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we got on the ground floor. We learned with our clients, we learned what the law was as they were learning what the law was. So we all did it together. Now we've got 20, 2+ decades of experiences and changes in the
Yep.
law and legislative changes and court decisions that we've helped to shape that have made things different. But yeah, it's been really exciting, wild ride. And as you can see, like always, if you ever have questions, I think that we see a lot that is in the media.
Yep.
Um, and it's always really important, I would think, in when you're ever like confronted with what a school does, to really just do your own independent research, right? And in addition to what's reading out what's out there, sometimes there's two sides to every story. And so what gets published about, the negative about any LEA, right? Schools are LEA. The public schools, all charters, cybers, districts, they're all LEAs. What's published about any LEA there's, his side, her side, and the truth in between, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
just do independent research and go and talk to school leaders to ask questions too, I would say, and come to somebody like me and ask my thoughts and opinions on that too.
Yeah. It's so great. I love learning, and it's neat that you guys have really carved out this niche. So hopefully people will hear our episode and they'll reach out to you for help. Are there a lot of charter schools in Pennsylvania? Do you know?
Yeah, there are. I don't have the exact number, but there are over dozens, more than
Yeah.
dozens. There's a lot. There's tens of thousands of students enrolled in charter schools and cyber charter schools in Pennsylvania, and in private schools. Obviously, there's a lot of kids too. So it's an alternative option that's available. Not every student, especially not every student with a disability, is necessarily going to want to be in the same educational setting.
Yep.
That's why we have choice. That's kind of my thing. And
Yeah.
choice is good. I made a choice. I send my kids to I have sent them to Catholic school.
Right.
That was
Private
a
school.
choice that I made, my family made for our kids. But I think all educational options are really good to have out there personally. So
I agree.
yeah, it's a good thing in Pennsylvania. And for whatever reason, something may fit a different need for you. And it doesn't mean one's better than the other, one's bad, one's good. It just means it's a different option that works for your family.
And it's always been hard to grow up. You think back to when you were growing up, when I was growing up, there were bullies, get picked on, and I think in some ways things have gotten even harder with the advent of social media.
It
And
is, yeah.
so it's like a magnifying glass. Everything gets multiplied, magnified, whatever you want to call it, and then more people can kind of see the same thing happening over and over. And the bullying, it's like I don't think about it, but cyberbullying is probably a big thing.
That is a huge area. I definitely, educate your kids about, appropriate online social media use and, what can happen if they're, if they're not doing the right things, but being sensitive to one another. It is like I will say you and I, Derek, grew up in a little different time. I'll date myself as like a much before the advent of any of this
Yeah.
was when I was growing up. And there is kind of a yearning for those days. We didn't have every moment of our lives being videoed or on camera. And when you were in school and you had a situation in school that maybe it wasn't your best day, you came home and you really can shut it off. Right now,
Right.
kids can't really shut that off as easily. It's there, it's
Forever.
pervasive.
Yeah.
So having other outlets, this is the other thing that I'll say I'm a huge advocate for is so like my kids having other activities that they're doing outside of school. If you have the ability as a family,
Yep.
Just whatever your kids' interests are, right? Like mine are all over the map. I had kids who played lacrosse and football and baseball, and then the band, marching band, and Boy Scouts, and all of those things. It gives them different options outside of the school setting to explore their own interests and own opportunities, and gives them, other friend groups, right, to grow on. So all of those things, if you have the means, I know it's hard as a parent to find
Yep.
time to fit it all in, but then, it's a community out there. So work with your friends of other parents and try to get the kids those exposure to those opportunities. I can't say enough for it. I think it's great. It gives kids a lot of skills outside of the classroom that they need in life.
So Nicole, that's a good segue.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back from your legal profession
Sure.
and now put on your hat as a mom.
Yeah.
Um, you're very passionate, obviously, and you're successful in your career, but talk about the joys of motherhood and the challenges. So there's probably a lot of moms or dads out there that are trying to raise a family, trying to put, food on the table, a roof over their heads, provide those extracurricular activity opportunities, be engaged, make sure they're developing, learning. Um, Talk about that journey as a mom and how you've ascended professionally such an amazing stature with your
Oh,
career. But tell me about that. I really want to get into that. Like what's that like?
well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. But the first thing I would say is I am not an expert in any means on this topic. I do the best I can every day. And like I tell my kids, I'm doing the best I have with the resources I have. And, bear with me. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I am in a non-traditional family. My kids' dad and I are not together, and having kids in Catholic school, that's
Expensive.
that's different.
Yeah.
That's kind of different. But we've made it work. We've done, good things for our kids. And I would say my only piece of advice I would give every parent is to just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Mm,
Um, you
that's
won't get everything right every day. And no, you won't be able to do it all either, right? Some days one thing's going to have to take priority over another. Your kids are always going to be your priority, but time management wise, you may have to spend a little more time at the office than you would have liked. You might miss a game. You might go want to really hit a game, and you might have to kind of leave work a little bit early. It's all a balance. Rely on your network of family and friends. Try to create a network. If you don't have a network, come see me. I'd be happy. I'm happy to be your friend, right? Come and talk to me. I'm out there. Um, and be really kind to yourself, because it is not easy. Any of us, any vocation you have, whether it's a single vocation, whether it's a parent, wherever you are in life is where you're supposed to be. I do believe that, right? And I do believe God has a plan for each of our lives.
Yep.
I do. And wherever you are, that's where you're meant to be. And you're gonna just keep going, keep giving it 100%. And on the days you can't give 100%, give as many percentage points as you can, and then call it a day and say, I do this to this has helped to ground me a little bit. Like I do every morning. I try to say to myself as we start the day, 5 things I have and I'm grateful for to start the day. And it might be as simple as I woke up this morning in a comfortable bed, the sun is shining, or maybe it's not. I have heat in my house, right? Like you start with the basics. I have food, right? To go
Right.
along with what
Mhm.
you do. Like there are so many families and kids out there who have food instability
Yep.
and aren't secure in where they're going to find their next meal. I'm very blessed to have that. And others who might not are very blessed to have you, Derek, and your organization and what you do. So just being grateful at every facet of the day for what you have that would be the other thing that I would say to do. Just try. I know it's hard.
Do you practice that every day? So when you get up, do you practice those 5 things every day?
I tell myself to do it. I try to tell myself to do it. I do set like a little reminder, and I tell myself to do that every day. Yeah, I
Are
think
there
it's
any other like
so.
routines or rituals that you do in the course of your day that have helped you stay focused? Because you're balancing a lot. I mean, 3 kids, working, running a practice with Kevin, helping
Yeah.
your clients. So, is there anything else that you do to level set or just to stay in order
I
or
have to think
recharge?
about that. I think that I do. I try where I can to make some time to. Okay, one thing I do is try to pause and be mindful in responding to communications. Right, I do try to turn off email and turn off the work world. Except for emergencies, people do know how to get a hold of me. Obviously,
Yeah.
like if there is something that is really urgent, you can find me and I will be available. But if it's something that's just kind of generally like emails trickling in, I try to set a time in which I am going to try to turn that off and just take a break until tomorrow, or look at it and then be mindful about the response time. So
Nicole,
I
is
try,
that per day? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt
yeah,
you. But so like every day, do you have like a time during this window you check emails, and then if it's not during those windows you don't check, or you meant more at night you just stop checking emails?
No, I'll check. I mean, I will check, but I won't let them manage me. I try to manage them,
Like
right? Like,
not get a
so
response right away to it.
yes, no, I have really learned, and actually a great CEO of a school told me this a long time ago too. Like, you do not need to do an immediate response,
I
right? Like,
love that.
your time that you take in crafting that response, your time is valuable.
Amen.
People will recognize, and I do think that this is true. People will recognize that your time is valuable when they see that you're not immediately like responding to everything every 5 seconds, and you're okay to have other priorities and other things that you're working on. So sometimes taking a step back, I've also realized, and this is in a personal life and in the
Hmm.
professional life, taking a step back and really thinking about what you want to say before you dart that response off, or drafting it, hitting save on it, and then maybe thinking about it again before you send it, can do a whole world of goods, because sometimes a little bit of silence can heal a lot of problems.
Amen.
And it can, it can be empowering and also a good thing to do. So just be mindful. And there are some responses that you are going to have to make immediately, but I think, be confident in yourself. You'll figure that out with time. As you grow in your profession, as you grow in life, you realize with what things need the absolute immediate response, and what things are better left to pause and reflect on before you dart that response off.
Was it
Um,
difficult for you to adopt that behavioral change?
Yes. Yeah. Because I was on, I will say, especially early on in my practice, and I won't say I regret it, because I mean, it was necessary at the time to get where I was, but I really had I will say I had a hard time, like letting my mind calm down a little bit, right? Like stopping and not being like, I need to get this done. I need to do this. I need to answer this. I need to research this. I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Yes, that has taken a lot of time for me to kind of start to manage my own life rather than letting my life manage me.
What?
Parenting too. I want to be perfect, right? Like, I'm a perfectionist. Like, I want to be perfect, but who's perfect? I'm not. I'm certainly not. I clearly in a
You're not
lot of
the only
areas
you're not the
haven't.
only you're not the only one that struggles with that. So what did you
Yeah.
do to kind of take that step to say, okay, I'm gonna set up some expectations, I'm gonna adjust expectations and some boundaries. How did you implement that?
I don't, that's a good question. I don't even know. Like, I will say this, like, I have tried to there are certain like non-negotiables that I do have, I do always want to um and I do this with my kids too, and this is me, but and it's no judgment on anybody who doesn't do it, but my faith is important to me, right? So I am going to make time no matter what, to try to get myself, my kids, make sure we're all going once a week, to make
Yep.
sure that we're spending a little bit of time in quiet reflection and going to church or something. So whatever your faith base or whatever anybody else's, whatever works for you, whether it's meditation, mindfulness, um, prioritizing some time every week for that, I
Yep.
think is important. Or it's helped me, I should say it this way, in my life. Um, and then I do prioritize trying to get a good night's sleep, because
Mm,
I don't think that I a lot of times will burn the midnight oil, but I realize I'm not working at peak efficiency if I don't have a good night's sleep. So I try to shut it down and get some rest, because it's important to get rest. And I try to make sure my kids are realizing that's important for them too. Try to take vacations when I can, right? Like, you want to have some time away. And I do like to I get a lot of I work a lot of things out in my own head when I'm spending some time in nature. I love music. I know, Dirk, you love music too. I
I
love to
do.
listen to it. I'm not talented in it, but I listen. I like to listen to it. It helps me clear my head. Spend a little time walking on the great trails we have in Chester County here. That's important too. Yeah, and like, just try to exercise, burn off a little steam. But you can't do everything every day. You just you got to know yourself, and if you can set a timer or calendar and prioritize, block out certain periods of your day for certain things, great. If you can't do it that day, forgive yourself.
Which is hard and it's easier said than
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Imagine that this was a process for you that didn't happen overnight.
No.
Probably still
No.
happening, right? Still
It's
evolving.
still, yeah, it's still happening. And believe me, I will be the first to say, I do not have all the answers. I like to learn from others. If
Yeah.
anybody has the answers, please give them to me.
Yeah.
I try to learn. I've had great role models in my life too. So I've learned a lot from my parents and who are very good people. I've learned, from you, Dirk. I've learned from people within the community who are serving others or have a mission that's larger than themselves.
Yeah.
I you know, wish that I had more time than I have to devote to that, right? And I think that that is really remarkable. And I've learned from my kids, the same way the kids, hopefully my kids are learning a few good things from me. I've learned a lot from them too. And I've learned about balance and like, juggling multiple things the way they do. And I will say they have a keen sense of not being quite as they're okay to make a mistake. I would say my kids kind of like, I've noticed that with them, like they're okay to try new things and make a mistake and like rebound and like go try something new. And they don't tend to get stuck in a moment.
Yep.
They enjoy the moments. And I've learned that from them.
We just say that growing up, that's why they gave you an eraser and people don't use pencils anymore, but
Yes. Yeah.
it's okay to make mistakes. So this is to summarize that, and then we'll finish up on philanthropy. But you start with gratitude, so it's like a gratitude affirmation in the morning. You mentioned 5 things you're grateful for. You've set clear boundaries, and your clients and other people in your life now are aware of the expectations because you prioritized it. You mentioned taking time to decompress via vacations, sleep, and health. And you actually, whether you're measuring it consciously or subconsciously, you talked about your efficiency and how efficient you are. You might burn the minute oil, but you realize that your efficiency goes down slightly. So being aware, I guess, of your own ability, that's pretty crucial.
Yeah. Hey, there are going to be times like practice the law. It's time demanding, right? And there are times where you're going to have to give 125% and be on all cylinders. And I will do that for my clients 100%. But then there will also come, because there always does eventually come a bit of a break. And so you
Yep.
take advantage of that. You like recognize this is my time to be able to like peel back and take a little bit of a break and turn it off because that is good for your own well-being. And that's something I would say to young attorneys, especially, and to anybody who's like running an organization. It is okay to find some time for yourself in addition to like running and doing everything that you need to do for your client and rely on other people. Like, as I said, I have a fantastic team in my office. Fantastic. I could not do what I do without them. We have paralegals who've been with us for, dozens of years, and we have attorneys who've been with us for dozens of years. So when I need help, I
There
ask
you
for
go.
help. And they've been very great to me. So you mentor, you teach to the extent that you can mentor and teach, and then they learn and you learn from them and they learn from you, and then you're all working together to maybe make the burden a little less of a burden, for everybody.
I love
And
that.
I will also say I've learned a ton from my clients. I
Hmm.
never go into a client meeting thinking I know the answer. My very first question that I try to remember to ask every once in a while, I'll forget, but I do usually ask them, what do you want to know from me? What are your questions for me? How can I help you achieve whatever your vision is or your goal? And what do you want to see coming out of that meeting? So I try to remind myself to set the framework, not going in and like, throwing a lot of advice at them, right? And talking at them, but really asking what do they want? What do they need from me? How do they want me to approach this? And it's surprising how much when you ask that question, it might differ a little bit from what, it might make your approach differ a little bit from how you would have approached it at the outset.
It's a great point. Always seek first to understand, seek to
Mm-hmm.
listen. So we're at about time. I guess I just wanted to mention on the philanthropy piece, thank you for your support. Not
Oh,
only
thank
are you guys supporters of the chili cook-off, which helps us raise awareness and funds to eradicate hunger, but you've been a supporter as your firm has for many years. So we just want to thank you. Not only you're
you.
helping clients, but you're giving back to the community, and I'm sure a lot of other charities too. But we really do appreciate your support of F4.
Oh, thank you so much, Dirk. Thank you for letting us be a part of this. Thank you for reaching out and doing everything that you do for the community, for those, for the hungry. And for Chester County and for like I know you stretch way beyond Chester County and even the counties in Pennsylvania, and you go out, and I think it's a really important mission.
Thank you.
I encourage anybody who's watching this to definitely research as much as they can about F4 and get involved where you can. You might not have a ton of time, but there's always something that you can do. I'm sure Derek would be happy with whatever you can contribute. And thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for letting us be a part of the chili cook-off and anything else.
Every bit counts. I always say that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we are, again, just thank you. We're grateful. We look forward to many more years of working together, and all of the effort and support you've given through the years, we appreciate. So for those that have been listening, please subscribe on YouTube or Spotify or SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you're listening from. I am Derek Fiorenza, and our guest today has been Nicole Snyder from the McKenna Snyder Law Firm here in Exton. So she talked a lot about cyber schools and just different ways they can help out. So please feel free to reach out to them as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Nicole.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.